Good evening, everybody. My rants tonight are going to be fairly subdued, perhaps. I never can really tell, to be honest with you. But I'm thinking that they will be tonight because it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm just leaving the office. Long day today. Long day. Been here since 9 o'clock. Well, give or take. If you know me very well. When I say I got to work at 9 o'clock, you know, that's a little iffy. If I say I'm going to meet you at 3 o'clock, you better be prepared for me to be there about 3:30. And I'm proud of that fact. Not really ashamed of it. I prefer for it to be otherwise, but it's not. So, you know, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful, that's all. I live a life of gratitude. I'm working on living a life of gratitude. You know, that's a deep subject right there. Simple things like that sound so easy. Oh yeah, of course, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, well, you can do it to a certain point, but going beyond the point where you're comfortable is another story entirely. That's, you know, and I don't mean comfortable as in you like it. I just mean comfortable as in you're comfortable. I mean, I have a little personal theory that has a lot of different definitions for the normalcy bias, but one of the definitions that I use, I don't know if anybody else uses this definition, is that we gravitate towards what we're used to. We gravitate toward what's normal for us. So if your definition of normal is to be materially abundant, let's say, you know, some people might call that wealthy, but wealthy is a tricky word because it's so relative. You know, what one person calls wealthy, another person calls poverty. You know, so I don't really like to use that word wealthy. It doesn't really have any absolute meaning. You know, I mean, certainly a lot of people that are wealthy by my standards that are poor by other people's standards, you know, vice versa as well. So it's another reason to be grateful, because you're always wealthy by somebody's standards somewhere. And when you start breaking down the percentages in terms of the population of the earth, well, most of us are doing pretty well, you know, relatively speaking. But one of the definitions of normalcy bias that I personally use is that we gravitate towards what's normal. So if your definition of normal is to be materially abundant, well then, you know, you're going to gravitate toward an attitude, toward relationships, toward behaviors, toward social interactions that bring that normal state to bear, right? I mean, that's natural. I mean, you're not even going to think about it. It's not conscious. You just do it, you know? On the other hand, if your definition of normalcy is to be physically, verbally, or even, I dare say, sexually abused, again, without even thinking about it, if that's normal to you, without even thinking about it, you're going to engage in behavior, you're going to harbor attitudes, you're going to gravitate toward relationships, social interactions that bring that normal state to bear. It doesn't matter that it makes you unhappy. It doesn't matter that it hurts. That's the power of the normalcy bias. It's just, I don't know why I got off talking about that, but anyway, I did. So see, how did I get there anyway? I started talking about being at work at 9, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm never on time. Living a life of gratitude. I really don't know. I don't know how I got off on that. But point is that, you know, I'm just grateful, you know. If the Lord allows me to be somewhere at 3:30 and I'm supposed to be there at 3, I'm grateful He allowed me to be a half an hour late as opposed to an hour late. I'm grateful that He allowed me to get there at all. You know? I'm grateful that He made it such that people who are there waiting for me are patient people and, you know, good people and kind people and whatnot and so forth, so on and so on. So, I mean, certainly there have been instances where I didn't show up at all. There have been times in my life when I did not show up at all on a semi-ish regular basis. I'm not really talking about work so much, but yeah, a little bit of that applies to work. You know, but certainly I've worked with people that had difficulty showing up at all. I have. That's a true story. That's a true story. Certainly there are a lot of people out there in the world who have difficulty showing up at all. There's a lot of people. So, you know, you just start focusing on everything you have to be grateful for, and things just start, your awareness, you know, of everything you have to be grateful for just starts exploding out of the, what would you call it, ether? You know, maybe. It's amazing. It's an amazing principle. You know, likewise, so it is if you think about the things you have to be unhappy about, right? Think about that. Things start to explode out of the ether. I mean, it's just amazing. It's an amazing principle. I'm not sure what the principle is, but it's an amazing principle. So I'm trying harder and harder and harder to live a life of gratitude, and I mean at a deeper, more consistent level. Because I'm pretty grateful as it is, but I'm saying I want to go even deeper because I still have my down times. You know, I get down, I get frustrated, I get angry, I get depressed, I get discouraged, you know? So I want to be even more grateful, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And because it's tough to be depressed when you're grateful, it's tough to be frustrated when you're grateful, it's tough to be angry when you're grateful, you know? It doesn't really make sense, does it? It's kind of like saying I'm going to jump in the pool so I can get dry. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, you know. So, anyway, pretty grateful. So yeah, like I said, I didn't exactly get to work at 9 o'clock, but you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd like to be at work at 7 o'clock. Then I could leave at 4 o'clock with a clear conscience. You know, that's what people who are good at some of the basic life skill, at a lot of basic life skill, being on time. That's what they don't understand, you know. And I don't say that in a condemning way, because I also understand that everything looks different from a different point of view, from a different perspective, from a different vantage point. So, you know, I can't say with confidence that I wouldn't have the same kind of attitude that I'm about to describe. I have not yet described it. If I were in their position, I can't say that. I cannot say that. I might. I probably would. You know, maybe I'd have worse attitude than what I'm used to seeing. But the point is that that attitude is saying, you know, they can be quite judgmental towards people who struggle with being consistent in terms of keeping their word and showing up at places like that. They don't understand how frustrating it is. They don't understand how stressful it is. I mean, it's, and you know, the typical, stereotypical sort of canned answer is, or canned attitude, or canned response, or comment, or whatever you want to call it, is, you know, well, then why don't you just stop? You know, who was that funny guy? Why don't you just start doing? Why don't you just, you know, like that. Who was that funny guy? I forget who it was. Bob Newhart. That's who it was, Bob Newhart. He had this funny skit where he was a psychiatrist. And people would come to him with their phobias and their anxieties and, their issues. And he would just look at him and say, okay, well, just stop. And they'd say, what? And he'd say, yeah, just stop. And they'd say, there's got to be more to it than that. He'd say, no, just stop. And then he'd say, okay, that'll be $5. So he was just charging everybody $5 and telling them just to stop. I mean, I don't deny that there probably are some situations where that actually works. Because maybe people have been so enabled their entire life that to hear somebody say that to them, just point blank, maybe that's all they need. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. But I think in most cases it's not quite that simplistic, But then again, there is no silver bullet, just at all. Period. I mean, there's no remedy. There's no approach. There's no strategy that works 100% of the time in every situation. Of anything. I don't care if you're talking about medicine or computer science or counseling, therapy. I mean, there's, it's just not right. I mean, so maybe that maybe there was more truth and more value to that skit than is on the surface. Maybe that is a valid approach. It's just like any other approach. It doesn't work all the time, So anyway, that was it was pretty. I mean, the way they did it. Of course, he was a great comedian. The way they did it was pretty funny. Man, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Let me tell you, some people are driving crazy out here. Woo! Man, I better get home before I get killed. Killt. Killed. Anyway, I'm just being goofy. So, basically what I want to talk, I want to pick up on this whole thing with these preachers, and basically, just my thoughts, because I keep thinking about it, and as the more I think about it, the more thoughts I have about it. I want to go back to Tim Whipple's sermon. It might have been on Easter a year ago. It might have been. I'm thinking that it might have been. I want to go back to that because there's a piece of it that I haven't had yet to pick up on, and it ties into the Glenn Money issue, because they're basically the same. So this is already getting long. I've been rambling for a long time now, haven't I? 12 minutes. Wow. So, one of the things that Mr. Whipple said was right after Charleston. So today is May the 18th, 2018. You can make a reference there to whenever Charleston occurred. I don't know. I'm terrible with numbers, dates. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm good with numbers. I'm good with math and things like that. But when it comes to time and dates, forget it, man. It's too practical for me. My head is way too high up in the clouds for all that. But anyway, I don't remember when it was. It had to be a year ago, though. It was a while ago. I've had several shootings since then, haven't we? But sadly, right? We just had one today down in Santa Fe, Texas. Up there. Terrible. But terrible stuff. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Charleston. So he said the thing that really fired me up. That this might really be the thing that fired me up. I mean, the whole thing about the Trinity and just talking to people as if they're idiots and promoting heresy. What is traditionally heresy in the Christian church. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I don't have a problem with heresy, but it's got to be informed. It's got to be disclaimed. It's got to be acknowledged to be heresy. Otherwise, it's just like theological ebonics. It's just like, what the heck are you talking about? Do you even know what you're talking about? I mean, when I say I have no problem with heresy, what I mean is I have no problem with what has been. I have no problem with challenging things that are orthodox, and in so doing, sort of stepping around in the heretical range, or field or area. But again, doing it in an informed way. Like, for example, saying, this is not orthodox, this is heretical in the history of the Christian church, but it nevertheless is what I believe, and here's why. That's informed heresy. That's not theological ebonics. That's like intelligent. That's competent. Just going off and like talking heresy as if it's by default true just because you can drool the words. What is that? Who deserves that? What are we all? They treat us like we're all just idiots, man. This is ridiculous. So anyway, the point is that with respect to the Charleston thing, he's talking about the whole white nationalist, what's it called, supremacy. And his comment was, I condemn it. Like, I condemn white. It's like, really? You condemn racism? You condemn white supremacy? It's like very theatrical, very dramatic. It's like, everybody condemns that, man. What is up with all this fake, empty theatrics? What is this? These preachers, they're just such cowards. They're such freeloaders. They just ride along on the currents of cultural, that's late now, I'm tired. I'm gonna have trouble with words tonight. Trends. They just sort of like ride along, just float comfortably down the river toward the waterfall of the destruction that the Bible talks about. You just ride, it's like, they're just so used to getting away with having a free ride, never having to take a stand for anything, Or like, Glenn Money takes a stand against people who take a stand, and he thinks that that's courage. It's like, no, that's not courage. That's thuggery. That's like joining the mob, right? That's not courage, man. But it's the same thing here. I stand against white supremacy. It's like, well, everybody does. Who the heck doesn't? What's this? Okay, so here's the thing. It's like, why are these guys so far behind the 8 ball? I'll tell you why, because they're cowards. That's why. But the question still stands for the sake of conversation. Why are they so far behind the 8 ball? Everybody knows. Every moron with an IQ of 70 knows. You can't believe everything you see on TV, but they get up there and theatrically act like because they saw it on TV that means it's true. It's like, that's ridiculous. Not only is it just complete and total ignorance, it's like, where's your sense of leadership, man? You can't lead if all you do is follow. What in the world? You're supposed to be leading people out of darkness, not keeping people in the dark, Like training people to watch TV and believe everything they see on TV. What the heck is that? What is that all about? Why do we have to lead you? Aren't you supposed to be leading us? What is wrong with you? It's sad, it's sick, and it's pathetic. Really. Honestly, that's the way I see it. Maybe you don't see it that way. That's the way I see it. Look. Go to crowdsondemand.com. Okay, go to that website. crowdsondemand.com. I'll say it again. crowdsondemand.com. I'm going to say it one more time. crowdsondemand.com. Go to that website. It's one word, no spaces, no specials. It's super easy. crowdsondemand.com. Go to that website. Let me just explain something. See, why do I have to explain this? See, Tim, this is stuff you should be explaining to the community. Glenn, this is stuff you should be explaining to the community. And the thing that you should be explaining to the community is that you can't believe everything you see on TV. Really? You don't even have the courage. You don't even have the moral fiber. You don't even have the sense of what it means to be a man to explain that. I mean, that's pathetic, right? This is what you should be explaining. That the practice of hiring mobs of people to run around in front of cameras to be shown on the news, okay, is so common, is so standardized, is so well and widely practiced that they actually have a website you can go to hire the mob. Now just think about it. How intelligent do you really have to be to understand that there are homeless drug addicts out there? Okay, like I said in the beginning of this thing, I'm grateful for the fact that I have what it takes to get up and go to work every day. And I'm quite reliable in that respect. I'm not so reliable on the time, but I'm quite reliable in the respect that I'll be there. And I'll do everything I can to do what needs to be done. And I'll even go above and beyond. Okay, I'm quite reliable in those. So I have a lot to be grateful for, right? But I will not be on time. I just will not. 20 years has shown, no, I will not. I'm not proud of that. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just the way it is. I'm grateful for what I have to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for the fact that there are employers that are grateful themselves. Right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job. Point. Okay, so the point is, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, I don't know, a lot of people out there that don't have as much to be grateful for as I have, and that is to say, they cannot get up every day and go to work, and therefore they live on the streets. They live hard lives. Hard lives, you know? Hard lives. We can't ever forget that. They live hard lives. And so, when somebody comes around and says, hey, listen, if you'll shave your head and put on these temporary tattoos, you know, Nazi signs, symbols, what are those things called? Swastikas, white power. I mean, who knows? God only knows. I mean, it could be different for any given situation. But I'm just saying, just how intelligent do you have to be to consider this possibility? And then here, take this piece of paper and memorize these outrageous comments, and you don't have to do anything. We're going to give you $500 at the end of the day, except for the fact that at some point during the day, for about 30 minutes, some people are going to show up with some cameras, and we want you to walk around in front of those cameras and say the things that we wrote on this piece of paper. Okay? And we want you to raise your fist in the air and act like you're angry. I want you to say these outrageous things. I want you to make sure that the side of your head that has a swastika on it is facing the cameras, and yada, 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 blah, 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 whatever, okay? Whatever they tell them to do. Like I said, it can be different in these situations. The point is, crowdsondemand.com, you can go hire a crowd of people to do whatever you want them to do. Okay? And yet you got Tim Whipple up there saying, I condemn white supremacy, like he's some kind of a man, like he's some kind of a hero, like he's actually taking a stand for something. It's just, I mean, the Pee Wee Herman aspect of the way these preachers are acting is just off the charts. It's like, are you trying to steal? I mean, you better watch out, because Pee Wee Herman's going to sue you for assuming his identity if you don't watch out, right? And then you got Glenn Money over there at First Baptist saying, we can't have white nationalists marching down our streets. And everybody starts applauding like that's some like dramatically amazing, intelligent, courageous thing to say. It's like, no, man. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe there's like 4, toothless, missing half of their teeth, jobless, hillbillies somewhere that are white nationalists. Maybe there are. I would assume that there are, because, there's people that have sex with horses. There's black nationalists. There's Chinese nationalists. There's all kinds of people, right? But you can't, you can't act like a hero because you're taking a stand against 4 people who are missing half their teeth, and they live in a lean-to in the forest and they have these crazy beliefs. I mean, that's just like, that's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. It's just, when did insanity become the norm? You know, when did community leaders acting like Pee Wee Herman become the norm? That's what I want to know. You know, when did this notion that faking theatrical nonsense would be believable and acceptable and respectable? That's what I want to know. You know? Oh, you're going to take a big, brave, courageous stand against racism? Hey, people have been against racism since the 1700s, right? What was that guy's name in Britain? The guy that ended slavery in Britain. I can't remember his name. You know, the Dutch in America were publishing pamphlets on abolition talking about the sacredness of humanity regardless of the color of his skin. Back in the 1700s. I mean, but you act like some kind of it's like this fake. It's okay, listen, folks. This is why it's such an abomination. This is why. I spend a lot of time talking about how it's like Pee Wee Herman and it's just aimless stupidity. It's just like empty foolishness. But in reality, it's like an abomination. What was that word I used about Glenn Money inviting his friend from the Gaza Strip to come over here and tell us that white people are evil? I forget that. What was it? It wasn't abomination. It was a different word. I don't know how I come up with these words sometimes. They just pop into my head, and then later I can't remember them. Anyway, I can't remember the word. It wasn't abomination. It was like travesty. It wasn't a travesty. Annihilation. No, it wasn't. It was a good word. I'd like to have that word back because it was a good word wherever it went. I don't know where it went, but anyway, yeah, you get the point though. It's horrible because listen, we got people chopping babies into pieces and selling to parts, and these Pee Wee Herman clowns, they don't say anything about that, but they're up there faking moral outrage over 4 hillbillies in North Carolina, you know, that are missing half their teeth living in a lean-to in the forest. They're faking some great moral stand by pretending to be outraged over their beliefs. It's like, dude, I don't know. Seriously? You know? You're listening to the circle of sycophants that you've strategically placed around you a little too closely because the rest of the world isn't with this. Okay? We're just not with it. All right? We're not with this Pee Wee Herman fakery. We're just not with it. And we know and we are aware of the fact that real moral atrocities are occurring all around us, and you are saying nothing because you're too busy playing your Pee Wee Herman routine. Right? Real moral atrocities, like babies being chopped into pieces and the pieces being sold. For example, how about boys, little girls and women being sold into human trafficking such that we have more slaves in the world right now than at any time in human history. Oh, but you're morally outraged against something that happened 2 years ago, and you're using that moral outrage as a platform against which to launch hatred against people on the basis of the color of their skin, and somehow you think you're being so smooth and clever and tricky by making the color of the skin that you are expressing hatred for your own color of skin, and so somehow we're going to think it's okay. It's like, how does that even, how do you even run a calculation in your head like that? Does that even qualify as a calculation? That's like not calculating. That's just insanity. Okay? There's more. These are not the only true moral, see, I'm tired, I told you. True moral atrocities. There's more than this. I just can't think of them right now because I'm tired. But there are more, I promise you. But this thing is about to shut off because it's about 30 minutes. And it always shuts off at about 30 minutes. So instead of having it cut me off, I'm going to turn it off and start a second part. Okay. Talk to you in a minute. Thank you for listening.